Early voting is underway in Texas, where one of the most closely watched U.S. Senate primaries is heating up. On the Democratic side, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is facing off against State Representative James Tallarico. And for Republicans, incumbent Senator John Cornyn is competing with State Attorney General Ken Paxton and Congressman Wesley Hunt to keep his seat. The primary is set for March 3rd, and the results could shake up the direction of both parties come November. Matthew Bartlett and Shaniqua McClendon are back with us.
So, Matthew, the big thing here we've been talking about all week is the fact that James Tallarico couldn't show up on Colbert, but he showed up on Colbert and on YouTube. And so let's play what Tallarico had to say on The Last Word about that whole kerfuffle.
I think the reason the Trump administration and their billionaire friends are trying to silence me and this movement is because they're worried that we are going to flip Texas in November of this year. There is a growing backlash across our state to the extremism and the corruption in our government. And we are building a movement to take back our state and take back our country.
Matthew, what do you think of this whole thing?
Listen, as a conservative, I think there's been a lot of political maneuvering that has been quite impressive. This notion of Trump is going to stop Colbert in order to stop Tallarico. People kind of went with this narrative. I'm not sure it's true. I think, candidly, they've actually done Jasmine Crockett dirty. I'm not sure that this, Trump suppression is reality. I think Tallarico got a nice little bump from this, certainly in fundraising. We'll see if it carries.
Who's the they when you say they did Jasmine Crockett dirty?
I would say some of the Colbert media folks and some of the some of the Democratic, staffers with Tallarico here. So I'm not sure. Everyone likes to be the victim. I'm not sure Tallarico is the victim of Trump suppression. I think Jasmine Crockett might be the victim of a false media narrative.
Well,
I got to be honest. Like, as a Democrat, I'm ready for this primary to be over.
It has been exhausting couple of months.
It's been exhausting, and I'm happy it's so early in the year because there's going to have to be a lot of damage control and repair done in the lead up to the general. I think Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico, they both have kind of different visions on how they can win. James Tallarico wants to go after voters in the middle, switch some Republicans, and Jasmine Crockett sees her path to victory as getting, voters of color who maybe have sat out to come out. But when we get to the general, they're going to need both of them. And I agree, maybe possibly I don't want to blame the candidates, but kind of the people around them or their supporters. There's just been a lot of backstabbing from, this Colbert situation or incident. I mean, this has dramatically helped James Tallarico. Millions of people went and watched that interview, even if it wasn't on broadcast television. He got some fundraising, and it's kind of put Crockett.
Some fundraising.
Yeah, a lot of fundraising.
Right.
And what is Congresswoman Crockett supposed to say in response to that doesn't make it look like she's upset and just pointing to that instead of focusing on the race? And then you have this influencer from a few weeks ago who said that James Tallarico, which he seemingly admitted, called Colin Allred a mediocre black person. And so all of this is taking away from two candidates who pretty much have the same platforms, but I think people do
their
have
attitudes that's
What a messy Democratic primary. What a Oh, wait, how's the Republican?
How's the Republican primary? I mean, come on.
I can't believe you have such a messy prime. We're talking about, a three-way race in Texas here where the incumbent may not even make the runoff. This is shocking.
Democrats.
100%.
Yeah, if Ken Paxton, let's look at we have some polling from the University of Houston's Hobby School of Public Affairs, and this is on the Texas Republican primary. Ken Paxton, 38%. John Cornyn, the incumbent, 31%. Wesley Hunt, 17%. Unsure is 12%. It's really interesting to me that that's where the numbers are, because Ken Paxton is he's very MAGA coded. He's very Trumpian. But listen to what Donald.
With some scandals.
I don't want to say it, but his wife. He apparently cheated on his wife.
More baggage than a 747.
Exactly. But let's look at Trump talking about him at this point, and people already voting. No decision on Texas endorsements. Listen to this.
I just haven't made a decision on that race yet. It's got a ways to go, and I haven't. He's a good man. John is I like all three of them, actually. I like all three. Those are the toughest races.
he can't pick one of his favorite children.
Does he even know Hunt's name?
Who's running? I will say this, Matthew. This is something, and I've said it on the show before, that Donald Trump's support of people doesn't really amount to much, right? One, he endorses very late to so much aware of whether or not it's actually helpful. I think he likes to read the tea leaves to see where the wind is blowing, so he's not seen as a loser. But then also, he doesn't show up in the state or the district. He doesn't throw a bunch of money at the primary opponent. So it's what is is a Trump endorsement actually worth as much as people think, especially in Texas?
Listen, in the primary, yes, it is still the biggest force. The president is a political animal, but he's not really a party animal. He's not growing the Republican Party.
Right.
And you can ask Senator Herschel Walker, Senator Oz that question.
Yes.
But we're talking about a messy Texas primary. How do you endorse Cornyn?
Yeah.
I think it just, I still think Texas stays red. But now we're also talking about not, the midterm, the money suck, right? Yeah. This is going to be a tremendous amount of money that our party, has to spend in Texas because guess what? You're looking at that Senate map, and if Democrats are going to win the Senate, which they could, although it's still a long shot, Texas going sideways is part of that equation.
Yeah. And you have all these other Senate races that they need to pay attention to. Michigan is an open seat. Maine is always,
Maine.
Yeah.
Though it is crazy that we're sitting here even talking about the Senate like it's actual a viable potential win for Democrats at the end of the day. I mean, this is not a conversation we were having a few months ago.
No.
This is 2006 all over again. But
you said that for months.
Yeah, but Shaniqua, how damaging will it be if neither Congresswoman Crockett nor State Rep Tallarico wins outright in the primary on March 3rd?
That means this is not over.
Because it goes to May, I think.
That is when you lose the advantage of having this primary so early, because now we've gotten to the end of spring and into summer. I mean, they are trying to beat each other, so I can only hope that they can come to a moment and say, look, let's run a cleaner race. But, as Congresswoman Crockett pointed out, there are these super PACs that the Tallarico campaign legally cannot talk to. So whatever they're doing, they're going to keep doing. But hopefully he can at least publicly condemn those things.
In the words of Mitch McConnell, mutually assured destruction.
Yes.